Hey, Tony, thanks so much for coming on the show to talk about this very important topic, which many people don't think is important, but when you are young or insecure, it's a big issue.
Dr. Laura, it is an honor to be here. And oh my goodness, yes, a huge issue, making friends, dealing with isolation and loneliness. We've all had to deal with it to some degree in the last couple of years, but I'm excited to dig in and talk about this with you. So my name is Tony Bacigalupo, and I am many things, but one of them is an artist, and I create gatherings that help provoke people to think about how they belong to the world around them differently. And what I realized at some point along that journey was that a big part of what was motivating me was my desire to address the issue of loneliness. I became aware of the fact that there is this thing that some people have called the loneliness epidemic, and that it is a major problem affecting a lot of people in the world right now. And I feel like I've found some clues as to how we might solve it.
Are you an extrovert? Does making friends come easily to you?
All right. I am a big fan of the word ambivert. I think that extrovert and introvert are a spectrum, and that we actually move between them. You're not necessarily an introvert, and you're not necessarily socially awkward if you've had trouble making friends at the events that are out there. Unfortunately, the events may be failing you.
The question that comes up a lot that I get asked, how do I make friends? What is your advice for that?
When I was working on the loneliness epidemic in particular before the pandemic, one of the issues that came up with me and a couple of folks I was collaborating with was this issue that you could come out to a bunch of events, you could make some really amazing friends, you could be very social and still come home at the end of the day and be lonely. And we wondered, like, what is the deal with that? We're doing everything right, and we're still dealing with this. And that is because we overlooked the most important sense of belonging, which is belonging to self. And it's important because even if you do go out and make friends, even if you do build up a very strong social life, if you are like I was in my mid-20s in the startup scene in New York City, you can get caught up in it and you can lose yourself in it if you're not vigilant about being in alignment with who you really are. Make room to just go explore and to adopt a sense of wonder. And a lot of times you will start to make friends this way. It's not a binary thing either. You know, I'm not saying don't go out until you've figured out yourself perfectly in every way. You know, like it's all a continuum. It's
of course, but really that's the first step. The first step is kind of figuring out who you are and what you like and liking yourself. When you like yourself, people will like you too.
So if we start with that solitude and that building your own interest, your own sense of identity, your interests will emerge. And then that starts to give you a foundation. Maybe you could find a local meetup or a group that's gathering. Anything that really involves some kind of growth or self-improvement, this is where you get into making friends with new people. Community and finding new people to meet up with is really not just about interest, but about growth. Whatever that thing is that you might be interested in, that's a good place to bond with other people, because then you're not just getting together because you all like the same thing. You're getting together because you're committing to growing in some way that's specific. And so that really gives you kind of a better medium to sink your teeth into in terms of forming deeper relationships. It'll also come from the connections you currently have, which is one of the other pillars. So we've talked about relationship to self, relationship to new people. The other thing that gets overlooked is that there are a lot of people who think they don't have friends, but when they examine their situation, they find that they actually do have more friends than they realize, but they haven't necessarily acknowledged that, for one, and nurtured those relationships, for two. And so part of this, how do I make friends? One of the easiest ways to make friends is to realize you already have them. And it sounds silly to say, but we do tend to have more relationships than we give ourselves credit for. And in some cases, it might just be a matter of sitting down, going through your phone, going through your contacts, and saying, you know, who do I already know? Or who's somebody that you met ever so briefly that you really got this feeling of, we should be friends. We're not friends, but that one time we met was amazing. And there's a good chance the other person felt the same way. And then those people can be a foundation for other things.
What are some ways to talk to people to start conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh my goodness, I can feel my own social awkwardness just picturing the situation. What I would suggest is to ask people about themselves and then give them your full attention. Don't interrupt. Don't even go like, yeah. Make it clear to them that you are showing them that you're giving them your full attention, and then let them talk. I will tell you another thing which has been amazing. I just was gifted a very, very fascinating, very loud coat, which has a bunch of Sesame Street characters all over it because that's where my fiance works. That coat, whenever I wear it out, people literally stop on the street and just start talking to me. So it requires a certain degree of bravery because you need to be willing to put yourself out there and look unusual. But I assure you, in many cases, it will yield tremendous returns in terms of breaking the ice. Just having something to talk about. People love having a little icebreaker.
Why do you think community is so important? Any type of community?
Yeah, so we're a tribal species. The middle of Maslow's hierarchy is belonging. It's right above shelter. And it's for a reason. We, as a human race, evolved to be one that only survives through cooperation. And it's wired in us. So we need to belong. It's part of why we feel so insecure when we're growing up in school, because we need to feel like we have been accepted by the tribe. Because if we don't, then we'll be cast out and eaten by wolves or whatever, right? So we have to belong. It's a part of who we are. And it gives us meaning. Without other humans, it's hard to feel a strong sense of meaning in the world. And so one way or another, connecting to the world around you, connecting to some other person helps you to feel a sense of purposefulness in the world. I've been describing a new framework that I'm putting together for what I call belongfulness. And it's the different pillars of cultivating a sense of belonging. Belong to yourself, belong with old friends, belong with new friends. The next pillar is organize, gather, and build community, create community. So I would say, if anything, host a little dinner party, invite some friends to Taco Tuesday, do something very simple and fun, and then start doing it regularly.
Tony, this is a really intelligent and succinct conversation. Thanks very much. How can people find you? How can we find out more about you?
Sure. I'm Tony Be Good, TonyBgoode on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me on my website. I'm TonyBacigalupo.com. If you search Tony Be Good, you'll get to my website, so you don't have to worry about spelling it. And my co-working consultancy is New Work Cities, wc.co. And my new program, Belongfulness, is under construction. But if you look for that word, you will probably find me.